Welcome back to Collecting Issues, where this episode we'll be taking a look at Assorted Crisis Events, Volume 1, collecting issues 1 to 5 of the 2025 Image Comics series from Deniz Camp and Eric Zawadzki.
So the comic book education continues?
We're talking inappropriate comic books.
You're into comic books, aren't you?
That's comic book shit.
Like in the comic books.
Very good. Welcome back to Collecting Issues, the monthly comic book club. Benjamin,
Yes.
it goes without saying that the listeners and readers who are reading and listening to this, they've already read the comics because this is a book club.
You better have read the comic. If you haven't read this
You better have read the comic.
If you haven't read this comic, I tell you what.
Fucking hop it.
Get out of here.
And then come back.
Scram.
Because the reason I'm saying this is that Collecting Issues is a comic book club, Benjamin. So that means that they're going to be big spoilers because you can't talk about it without doing the big spoilers.
Yeah. So go away now and read it.
Yeah.
Off with you.
Off with you. Go off and read it and then come back. And now, Benjamin, speaking of big spoilers, the other thing to point out is that if this episode seems a little bit more tense and stilted than usual, that's because Benjamin and I have both accidentally worn the same tight t-shirt and we're really struggling to maintain a hench posture so that we don't look any less of a man in front of each other. So it might be stiffer than usual, but that's fine. Don't worry about it. That's just how men talk to each other in 2026.
There's going to be an awful lot of air left in my lungs.
Don't you try and mog me, Ben, you son of a bitch.
Yes, Mick and I will be attempting a frame mogging throughout the entire episode. I've got my hammer over here on standby, and when Mick's not looking, I'm going to give myself a little smack of a hammer in the face and sort my face out.
Very good, Benjamin. The only problem is I've been looks-minning recently, so it's hard to undo that. Ben, shut up for a second. What even is Assorted Crisis Events and all anyways?
Well, Michael, come here to me.
Yes, I'm listening.
You and I, in another lifetime, Michael, in another era of our lives, we did another podcast called Sure Look, Sure Listen.
Sure Listen, yeah.
Yeah, and towards the end of that run, Michael, there was an explosion in the years of about 2023 onwards in the amount of multiversal narratives that were suddenly being flung at us from all four corners of the plot of the pop culture earth, Michael. The plop culture earth.
The plotosphere. The plotosphere, as you call it.
Michael, we were being lashed with the multiverse and alternate timelines. In one fell swoop, Michael, Marvel descended into multiversal madness, as it were.
Absolutely.
Right? So,
Benjamin, we were so getting lashed out of it.
yeah.
I was able to cancel my weekly sessions with Mistress Katharina.
Yeah, it was done. You were lashed out.
I was lashed out of it enough then. We were getting Marvel. We were getting bloody DC. We're at it. Bloody DC tried to do it without any groundwork.
Yep. No
They just
groundwork
said
at all.
everything's multiverses now. Yeah. The bloody TV shows were multiverses. Every TV show decided it was a multiverse. What's that called? The Green Arrow multiverse. The Batman multiverse. The Flash multiverse.
Yeah.
Avengers started doing multiverses.
It was nuts.
Yeah. Everything is multiverses.
Everything.
You were saying that.
Everything is multiverses. And Michael, this comic, Assorted Crisis Events from Deniz Camp and Eric Zawadzki, is a look at what if it wasn't focused on a bunch of, in the case of DC, B-list TV stars, and in the case of Marvel, A-list Marvel stars, and it was focused instead on the ordinary people of those worlds and what happens when people start crunching universal concepts together and smashing worlds about the place. And that's what Assorted Crisis Events is, Michael. It's a look at a world in crisis with absolutely zero heroes to deliver them from it. Yeah.
This is one of... Sorry, Benjamin, I've just got a text coming in there. It's from TV and film star Stephen Amell. And he says, Ben, you son of a bitch, how dare you?
Yeah.
I don't... Apropos of nothing. Ben, non-superhero comic book storytelling.
Yes.
Weird. The year of our Lord 2026.
The year of our Lord 2026 on Collecting Issues, Michael. The comic that takes a pop at panels. Madness.
Very good.
Madness.
Ben, this Deniz Camp fella.
Yeah.
I feel I've heard the name before.
Well, Michael, it's only because we've done two other episodes in the last 12 months on the man. We love Deniz Camp.
What is it? Is it Deniz Camp fan cast? Ridiculous.
I think at this stage we might be.
What about our journalistic integrity, Ben?
It's gone, Michael. Gone. pshawed
out the window.
to the wind. It's finished. No, but we have done quite a bit of Deniz camping over the last year, Michael, the last 12 months of this podcast existence. We did 20th Century Men there last year.
Oh, that was the good one about superheroes.
Yeah, and that's Deniz Camp and Stepan Morian, who follows us on Instagram, Michael. Hi, Stepan. How are you? He follows us on YouTube as well, I think, so they'll wait for you. And then we also just did, Michael, in this year of our Lord, 2026, we did Absolute Martian Manhunter Volume 1.
You loved it.
Oh, I loved it. Nom, nom, nom.
You were absolutely mad for it.
That's
now,
me.
you love comics about smoking, Ben.
I do. I love comics about smoking. Do you know who else loves comics about smoking?
Deniz Camp, I think.
Deniz Camp. He's mad for cigarettes. Mad for cigarettes. He's
Mad
bringing
for
them back.
cigarettes in comics.
He's bringing them back.
Yeah. Single-handedly.
Yeah, that might not be the brand he wants to be associated with, to be honest. Deniz Camp bringing back cigarettes. But yeah, so this is his new Image Comics venture, Michael, and it's ongoing from 2025. It's a series of vignettes, and it's a bit like if the Twilight Zone had very singular. I don't know whether you'd call it a pessimistic outlook on life, but it's certainly a slightly darker, more serious version of the Twilight Zone in places. Yeah. I think it's yeah.
People are getting eaten by aliens nearly every week in the Twilight Zone. The Twilight Zone doesn't have many twist happy endings.
Yeah.
I think you're right. The Twilight Zone is a good comparison. But I think, first of all, and this maybe caught me by surprise, despite the fact it says it in every issue, it's an anthology series. It is. First of all. First and foremost, it's an anthology series. And it's an anthology series of every high concept multiverse science fiction concept. But it's not just an anthology series, it's happening in a shared world. But the meaning of that shared world, when multiverses and time and everything are breaking down, it kind of doesn't matter that they're in the same world, but it kind of does, because there's also just the tiniest little schmutz of a hair of a through line of something bigger might be going on, and we might eventually get there. But we get absolutely no indication of what the goings on are in this.
It's a hobo with a backpack, Michael. It's a hobo with a backpack.
It's a hobo with a backpack.
Well, jetpack. Jetpack. But
yeah. Homeless individual, Benjamin, I believe, is the preferred term over hobo.
Yeah, sorry. That's my fault, gang. That's on me.
Yeah. An individual sin hogar.
Very good. So, hombre sin hogar, which is relevant to this podcast because there's an entire comic in this, Michael, that is very much based in Mexican language and culture, also known as Spanish, but the Mexican Spanish.
Spanish, yeah. Is Deniz Camp Spanish, then? I thought he was. Is he not?
I think so. We should probably know that before going on air, Michael.
Yeah.
I'll look it up while we're spinning our wheels. But for now, all of this is laid out in issue 1, Michael, or chapter 1, as it's called within the comic itself, and that's Apocalypse Now is what it's called. And
that's a film.
It is a film. This is very pop culture referential throughout, Michael, and becomes increasingly more so as it goes on. Issue 5 of this has some great little Easter eggs thrown in there.
Delightful little Morcellus.
And I think probably the way that we could frame this is that this is a little bit more Twilight Zone, but in the remnants of it's plying its wares using the audience's awareness of superhero comics. And I think that's quite important in different places.
Okay, go on.
We'll come across it as we go, but one of the things that I found in researching this comic, Michael, as I was going through and trying to pull some quotes, we put some stuff up there on the Instagram to get people involved in the comic. But Deniz Camp has stated that this is Crisis on Infinite Earths if it was happening to normal everyday people, or Black Mirror if the fabric of space and time were breaking down. So that's his direct
quote. Because Black Mirror is not about the fabric of space and time breaking down. Black Mirror is about technology gone awry.
Yeah, exactly.
Putting robot stuff up your butts and stuff.
Yeah.
But this is every timey-wimey crisis reimagined. Now, how much legs this has? This isn't a limited series, right? This is an ongoing series?
I think it was initially published as a limited series, but it has been what can only be described, Michael, as a runaway hit. for
Oh.
Image Comics. It is much beloved, Michael, and much read and much purchased by the comic book community. So I think it's flexible enough that this could run on for as long as you fancy having it go on. Anthology series have that ability.
They do, but the question is, how many different timey-wimey conurbations could you come up with, where each timey-wimey thing is subtly different and subtly interesting, and can you go back to the well on what type of crisis is happening, but how a different person is responding to it? Like for example, in issue 2 of this, issue 2 might not even be a timey-wimey thing. Issue 2 might be just someone having a freak out.
It's a mental health crisis, as opposed to
issue 2 is exactly. Now it is set in the same world because there's a tiny bit of crossover in characters and setting, but it doesn't. I suppose the pitch of the thing is very much time is in crisis and the multiverse is in crisis, but that doesn't mean you can't have a mental health crisis.
Absolutely.
or an identity crisis or any of the other crises that DC has come up with.
But I think you might have hit the nail on the head there, Michael, as to what makes this work so well for me. Because we've seen, as you put it, and as Doctor Who put it, timey-wimey stuff done all over the place. Time loops, alternate timelines, they're everywhere. They are more present in pop culture than they have ever been. And probably waning a little bit.
Yeah, because they've been poorly received. This is probably the best thing about them recently.
Yeah.
But this is incredibly meta. This only works because these things are so in the pop culture.
Exactly.
Like any one of these 5 stories 20 years ago, no, not 20 years ago, let's say 30 years ago, would have been the basis for an entire series.
Yeah, absolutely. You would choose one and run with it.
Yeah. Like, oh, you know what one I'm thinking of, for example, and this isn't by Deniz Camp, I don't think. That one about 1 million genies or whatever.
Yeah, 8 billion genies. Yeah, also covered on this podcast.
No, we're on top of it. We've got it covered here on Collected Issues. Benjamin, 8 billion genies is the kind of concept. It feels a little bit like if you took one of these concepts and strung it out into an entire series.
Yes.
But if that was in this series, it feels like it would be one issue.
Yes.
Or one, they're not called issue here, are they? One chapter.
One chapter, yeah. But they are issues in terms of the physical creation that they are. But yes, they're chapters in the story narrative. So just coming back to what you said, Michael, about the mental health crisis aspect, I think what makes this so intensely readable is the fact that Deniz Camp is grounding timey-wimey stuff in real human experience. So you're absolutely right. Issue 2, on the one hand, is time colliding together all at once and someone traveling through significant, I guess, trauma points in their own life at the same time. They're all happening all at once.
Yeah.
And
not just that, but also seeing them as repeating cycles of themselves, including the layout of the frames.
Yeah.
My first thought on that, Ben, sorry, do we want to get deep into this yet? Or
No, we'll get deep into it when we cover it issue by issue.
Okay,
Just touching on your point again, time flies is another thing that time flies is issue or chapter 4 of this. And that is also someone having a bit of a crisis in their life. They're looking back at their life and they realize that they haven't maybe made the best choices and they are filled with regret. And it could be that this person has been dislodged from time and only leapfrogging significant points in their life. That's possible because of what was set up in the previous issues. But it also might just be someone who's made poor choices.
And or, mental health crisis again. Yeah. In fact, the very surface reading of it is, of course, that he is actually skipping through time and missing all of these decisions. That's the surface level reading of it. But if you read that a lot of these timey-wimey or identity or multiversal crises are actually personal crises, then you start getting into, is it a mental health episode? Is this a bipolar thing? Is it a panic attack? Now, I've just used the general term having a freak out because, Benjamin, I am not a mental health doctor.
Nor am I.
So I don't want to... Yeah, exactly. So I don't want to say you're a bloody mental health case, more like it. But anyway, I don't want to say this is a bipolar episode or this is a schizophrenic disorder because I don't know.
Yeah.
I only know them in a pop culture term. So that's what every time during this podcast when I say maybe he's just having a freak out, that's in recognition of the fact that I don't know what I'm talking about in terms of mental health. And most internet commenters probably don't either.
Yeah. So I think it's probably easier for us to say, Michael, that it's grounded in a very human experience of
having a freak out.
Stressful mental health, right? We could just
we could
probably nail down to that. I don't think there's any value in us trying to nail down the exact thing that this person might be experiencing.
Get out the mental health diagnostic
where's that
catalog. Where is
book
it
that Americans use? What's that called again?
Yeah, it's in here somewhere.
So we won't be doing
it's
that.
ADHD, Ben.
But that brings us, I suppose, swiftly, Michael, to someone who might be having a really bad mental health day, or who might be experiencing frankly shocking events in issue number 1, Apocalypse Now. So we meet there, Ashley Cargill is our protagonist for that particular issue, and it's the most grounded of all of the issues in my opinion, and it's a bit broader because I think it's trying to introduce the crisis to the reader, right?
Do you think, Benjamin, can I go out on a limb here
Go on.
for a second? Can I just go out on a limb? Can I go out on a multiversal limb? Can I go? I didn't like this one. I think this is the worst one. And I think it's done the series no favors, sadly.
Go on.
Because I read this twice and put it away. I read it once and go, okay, it's a multiverse, but it's some sort of crisis, but the crisis revolves around the blending of fiction and reality.
To some degree, yeah.
The blending of some degree or something. And I'm relatively media literate. I've read a lot of comics, and I know probably once every 6 months I bring this up on this podcast and say, I understand how to read comics and I didn't understand this. It took me 2 readings of the first one. Mm-hmm. And the first reading was before we decided to cover it for this podcast. And I read it and went, not for me. Mm-hmm. And then the second one, I said, well, this has to be for me because I'm doing it on a podcast. And I still went, not really for me. And then when it became, now, part of this is that I'm a dummy and didn't realize Anthology, so the rest weren't going to be like this. Mm. But I think as an introduction to the concept, I actually thought this was a little bit weak.
I don't know if I'd agree with you entirely. I think...
Oh, fuck you then.
That's the end of this podcast. So, what I find interesting about this one is I think it's trying to set up the concept of time and space breaking down, right?
It does that wonderfully.
It does that wonderfully. And I think it's trying to... I guess maybe it is a litmus test, and I don't want to say this was Deniz Camp's intention because I don't think we can speculate on stuff like that, but it's definitely a litmus test for the type of person who would want to read this kind of narrative, this kind of time is broken narrative, and the kind of person who might not enjoy that type of narrative as much. And maybe it was attempting to divide its audience into the people that would go down that route.
To separate the wheat from the chaff.
That's not
is
what
you're
saying.
saying.
I didn't even use the word segregate. It occurred to me, and I didn't even use it for that exact reason.
To separate the chronal men from the temporal boys. Is that what you're saying?
You've called yourself a temporal boy, and that's none of my business. But I'm a chronal man.
You're saying I failed. You're saying I failed Deniz Camp's test. That's what you're saying.
I just said we can't speculate on Deniz Camp's intention. I just said
a little bit like you're saying, Mick, you're too dumb for this comic.
That's not what I'm saying.
But that's the funny thing, Benjamin, because I'm exactly the target audience for the rest.
You are. You're the core audience for that kind of thing.
I love the rest of them. I just still, on 2 readings, this one doesn't quite, I just don't quite get it.
So at certain points, this is definitely a comic that comments on the pop culture landscape and how we absorb culture and what we are subjected to our television screens. Because the backdrop of this, Michael, is that Ashley lives on a street where they film a lot of blockbusters and a lot of dystopian apocalypse movies. That is, and yes. The logic given is that it's a shit looking street, so it doesn't take much to dress it up to look like the end of the world. It's pretty...
Yeah, very good. Like where we live, Ben.
Yeah, like where we live in Dublin. A lot of people do that in Dublin. So That's the framing of it. And then what we actually come to understand, Michael, is that through the process of this, time is actually collapsing around people. And that's where it gets a bit complicated, because it's very grounded and very meta for the first, I'd say, 5 pages? Maybe a little bit more. The first 6 pages are Ashley being grumpy about the fact that she is forced to consume these terrible, terrible movies with what's going on in the world. Now, we're not given an inkling of what's going on in the world for those first 6 or 7 pages. All we understand is that Ashley doesn't watch this type of end of the world movie because she can't bear it, because the reality is stranger than fiction at this point for her. Now, we don't understand why that is until we get to page 8 or 9, where we see the man picking his nose
little ghost
in the
fella
middle of the street.
time.
Yeah, he slipped out of time.
Yeah.
And his wife is distraught, as you would be. But up until that point,
Depends.
Michael, it depends on the husband, I suppose. Yeah,
Yeah, my wife would be fine.
But up until that point, we just assumed that she's talking about today, 2026 or 2025,
Yeah.
and going, "Oh Jesus, no, the world's in a terrible state of chassis. I can't
It's not, not
watch
even
it."
so.
Yeah. And then we realize, oh, actually, there's another layer to this within this universe, if you like, which is that time has stopped working. And then we get a lot of this is Ashley's internal monologue, which I think also makes it a slightly tougher read. I like when characters interact. I like speech bubbles. And internal monologue blocks are a little bit tougher, but it does introduce us to the world. And I think this is where I found a whole new level of appreciation for Eric Zawadzki. I had read 1 or 2 things that he had drawn before, and I liked him, but I think the way that he builds this world for Deniz Camp's script is unbelievable. We get that sequence where she's walking through this chronally displaced city, and she's surrounded by cavemen and Celtic warriors and Aztec people at different points. And I just think the range happening in this comic is unbelievable in terms of what's expected to be drawn. I'm looking at this one alone, Michael, and in it, there's hovering cars in the background. There's, there's a caveman down here, and it's just mad. Like the level of stuff that's required.
There's 2 Ashleys.
There's 2 Ashleys.
Isn't Ashley a lovely character design as well?
She is spectacular. She's really, really, really distinct from the world around her, and it makes it so much easier to follow her story through this city as it happens. You and I have an issue, Michael.
Yes.
With same face syndrome in comics, where an artist has he has a pretty girl face, he has a crone face, he has a handsome man face, and he has a slub face. And it's like a character creator in a 90s video game. You can change the hair
That's all you need.
and the facial hair.
That's all you need. That's the full gamut of the human experience.
And that is definitely not the case for Eric Zawadzki. He creates a whole range of characters, Michael, in gorgeous variety. You have big burly boys, you've cavemen, you have Ashley, who remains distinct throughout. There's so many different types of characters from so many different timelines and so many different universes in certain cases, Michael.
Yeah.
And he does a brilliant job of distinguishing them.
And you know what he's also fabulous at?
Go on.
Fabulous at. Like a case study is aging up characters. And that is so vital to this comic book. And the first time I actually noticed it is in Ashley's episode, where Ashley's at the bar and a relationship happens behind her. And they get a bit older, a bit heavier, the hairlines recede. They have a baby. They go on a first date, they get married, they have a baby, and then they're screaming at each other. But so obviously the same characters just passing through their lives and aging them up in that way. Like this comic doesn't work if you don't have an artist who can take a character and show them disheveled.
Yeah.
And then show them 10 years older. And then show them 15 years younger. And that really becomes important in the other episodes.
Yeah,
The other
absolutely.
chapter.
And we haven't even touched on his savant level gift for panel layout and page layout. I'll get to it.
You love a panel play.
Because as we go through this, the range of layout capability that Eric Zawadzki has blew my mind. It's not as crucial in this, in issue 1, in chapter 1, but it becomes an essential storytelling technique as we move through the next few chapters. The only other thing I want to touch on here, Michael, is it also establishes the trope, as you said, that maybe this is just someone in a mental health crisis. This woman is all alone in the world. Ashley Cargill lost both her parents. She has no one to support her. She lives in a rough neighborhood. She is surrounded by chaos, either in the form of movie production constantly happening outside her door, or in the form of, just having to exist in 9-to-5s where people don't remember her or don't really see her as significant. And it could be chronal aberration, or it could be a mental health crisis. But they establish one final thing in this issue, which is really important, and that is the emergency broadcast signal that every single character in this universe gets at different times on their phone. It is the little black and white message on phones that tells you...
That's red and white.
Sorry, red and white. Sorry, red and
white
with a black border.
Yeah.
It tells you, Michael...
No, that's the phone, Ben.
Oh, leave me alone.
Just look at it. Use your eyes, Ben.
And most importantly, what is being said there is a confirmed atypical temporal phenomenon in your area.
Yeah.
Threat level moderate, right? And
what's it?
That is the only thing that lets us confidently say that this is in one place or another place. As in, is it mental health or is it a timey-wimey thing? And that is what constantly kind of keeps us grounded in, things are actually very strange because time is falling apart as we go through here.
Yeah. But I think with all of them, it's not really up to us to decide if... I don't think that any of these are up to us to decide if this person's having a temporal crisis or a mental health crisis. They're all having a temporal crisis. There's no question that time has broken down and the rules of reality have been rewritten.
Yeah.
It's just, is it a metaphor, and how heavy-handed a metaphor for something is it? So in this, maybe she's having some sort of dissociative wobbler.
Sure.
Where, some days she goes to work and she's gone to the wrong place and they actually don't know her. But no, surface reading, everything it has presented, what's gone wrong has gone wrong. I just found this one, I didn't quite, and it still hasn't quite clicked with me. Now that we've talked it through, I see the value of, taking us on a little bit of a walking tour of the universe. And that's sometimes the trickiest thing that a pilot has to do.
Yeah.
Is take you on a walking tour of the universe and familiarize you with what's going on and, establish the ground world, as it were, because there are very few in this, of the world. But when she meets the actor who's playing Hitler, what was going on there? You tell me what was going on there.
So as we said, there's a lot of commentary happening in this first issue on the current state of existence, right? And I think if we are to step away from the world of the comic and look at what might be being commented on in the actual world that you and I occupy, this might be the most heavy-handed moment in the comic, right?
Is it?
In issue 1, certainly. It's...
Okay.
Putting on my meta cap, right?
Put it on.
Ashley is a woman who is experiencing the world as we experience 2025, where we pick up our phones, and on our phones we are bombarded with a series of headlines of atrocity occurring in the world. And you can take that any way you like. You can take a look at the decline of the American political scene. You can take a look at the atrocious genocide taking place in Palestine.
Not great.
Not great.
Knock that off.
Any of those events could be what Ashley experiences on her phone day by day. But if we situate it in the continent of North America, Michael, she says the next day or next week, it's impossible to say which, I wake up to a fascist nightmare. Now that, outside of timey-wimey stuff, is the reality that Ashley is participating in, and it's the reality that a lot of Americans, I think, would feel a kindred reaction to, where their democracy, and I use the word democracy in a big kind of air quote marks, it's gone. They are existing in this weird timeline where fascism is increasing. Now, do we have the classic red, white, and black of the 1930s and 1940s German Nazi party in it? No, that hasn't happened yet in reality. But I think this is a comic book parallel to that. I think the actor is a look at people who maybe have apathy or who are participating in actions that directly fund the likes of genocide in Palestine or the likes of complacency in the erosion of American freedom. And I think it's someone who has come from, as he says, his grandmother was in Auschwitz or in the camps in Germany in the 1930s and 40s. And he has just had a mental breakdown because he's playing an officer in the Third Reich. And I think it's a comment on the cognitive dissonance that is required but cannot be sustained to participate in these systems of oppression. If you're asking me what it means.
Okay,
That's
I get it.
my
I get
read.
it. It's very... Yeah. For Americans, by Americans. America sucks, basically. Okay, maybe I thought I didn't get it. When I was reading it, I was like, maybe I just don't get this because I'm too stupid. But then it's not that, because I'm not as stupid as Americans, let's say.
Let's say. Yeah, sure.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's what
that's your point.
That was my point, exactly. Yeah.
Benjamin,
Yes.
issue 2, much more straightforward in terms of what it's about. It's immigrants.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's the plight of the immigrant in America. Michael, this is the issue.
Or anywhere.
Or anywhere. That's a very good point. I think that's very important. Yes, it uses the Mexican to United States journey as the overall
that's
setting.
Interesting. I didn't say. No, hold on. Which one? Sorry, I'm mixed up. Which one's issue 2? Is issue 2 not the one about the two heaths?
No, Hearth 1 and Hearth 2 is issue 3.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Issue 2 is about a man having a wobbler.
Yeah. So issue 2 is called Slaughterhouse 9 to 5, which I think is chef's kiss. What a name. What a name.
Very good.
That's referencing the Kurt Vonnegut novel Slaughterhouse 5, Michael.
Yeah.
Which
Which
is
Fahrenheit 451.
And it also gives us, that's Ray Bradbury, not quite the same, Michael.
Yeah.
But yeah, and it gives us
a word and a number, though.
It is a word and a number. There's no getting around it. That is a word and a number. So I think that gives us the key to understanding this text, because in Slaughterhouse 5, Michael, it centers around a man who is displaced from time and experiencing his life in loops. But non-consecutive, non-consistent loops. So what I mean by that is he is going around in a loop, but sometimes he's 40, sometimes he's 10, sometimes he's 60. You know, he's not hopping linearly through his life from 0 to
non-sequential.
Yeah. So and that's exactly what's happening to poor Jesus in this particular narrative. So issue 2 is the one that made me realize that I'm reading something very different. It made me realize that I'm reading something from a comic book perspective, Michael, that couldn't be anything other than a comic book. I love when I read a comic, and it happens with panel layout, it happens with the meta nature of the gutters between panels and things like that. I love when I'm reading something that I think could only work as a comic. I think there is something inherently comic book critical to this story, and I really enjoyed reading it. But Jesus is like millions of Mexicans who have come to the United States over centuries, decades, whatever way you want to look at it. Well, the United States hasn't existed that long, so we'll say centuries.
Yeah. 25 minutes. Ben, sorry to interrupt for a second. Have you read issue 8 of this yet?
No, I haven't.
Oh, I'm not going to do any spoilers, but you're going to fucking love it. I tell you, you're going to love it. I was reading, because Benjamin, we had a little mix up, because I've read these as singles and you've read them as a collected issue, and I thought volume 1 was 1 to 8, so I've actually read 1 to 8, and I was reading 1 to 8 I read 8 and went, this is why this son of a bitch has had me read this. Oh, Benjamin, you're going to love it. I'm not going to say anything more, but you're going to love it. Anyway, back to issue 2. You're gonna love it, Benjamin. You're gonna love it. Let me tell you.
So issue 2 again sets out a lot of different stalls, Michael, but it introduces the concept of the immigrant experience, which becomes a touchstone for the series overall. I think it would be fair to say the immigrant experience and what people go through.
One of them for sure, yeah.
Yeah, is definitely something that comes up. But this stuck with me in a different way, Michael, because Jesus, it's horrific. Jesus, it's horrific. It's a hard read, not because it's not well written, not because it's not impactful, but because it's grim in places, Michael.
Oh, it's grim as shit. Benjamin, one of the strongest pitches for veganism ever in a comic book. And like, I'm a bloody dyed-in-the-wool, humans are omnivores, it's science, come at me, bro, person. But I don't think I've ever read a story which wasn't an overt, here's a story about how meat is murder, that made me feel, oh no, this is putting me in an awkward situation morally.
Yeah, it does the most subtle job of creating that message. You know, veganism is the proper way to go without ever smacking you over the head with it.
Yeah,
I
mean, it glances off your head, and there's a certain irony then, obviously, when the velociraptors come through and they eat the humans as much as they eat the cows, and you know, then he who is the eater has become the eatees. It seems
spot on. There is a role reversal towards the end. There's an insane level of gore and viscera to this issue that takes a lot to kind of stomach, you know.
Yeah.
I found
it particularly unsettling when he goes to meet the very attractive state-sanctioned psychologist or psychiatrist.
Yes.
And she's eating a hamburger.
And she cleans the blood off his documents without blinking next to her food.
Yeah, it's like, is she actually there to help, or is she just as big a part? Does she need as much help as anyone else?
And by the end of it, Michael, I think that's definitively answered as no, she's not there to help at all.
No, none of them are.
She's there to look after the company. This is the issue that introduces Eric Zawadzki's gift for panel layout, but I think it's also the issue that showcases Jordie Bellaire's contribution to this. Jordie Bellaire is the colorist on this comic, and I think it's fair to say, Michael, colorist is often the unsung hero of a comic book. Barely, if it's good or bad.
Barely a step above letterer.
Barely a step above letterer. But Jordie Bellaire consistently delivers stunning work, and this is a great example of that. The level of care and limited palettes that are used to create a unique colorscape for each issue is unbelievable. Here, it's the yellow and the reds and the whites. It occasionally reverses into teal for the nighttime stuff, but it's yellow, orange, white, red is the core kind of thing, and then teal pops up every once in a while. And there's a few other colors in there to distinguish characters, but it is masterful. The absence of color is used beautifully, and it always puts the characters front and center, because they are usually the only people in this vignette that are fully colored or fully rendered in color, might be the best way to say it. So it also introduces the love that Eric Zawadzki has for repeated panel layouts in the comic. So the first 2 pages of this issue are distinct. One is the big splash page of the Velociraptor about to eat someone.
Yeah,
we don't know who it is yet.
Yeah.
And then an immediate flashback to Jesus as a boy encountering a statue in a museum, the exact same, a diorama of a Velociraptor, and it terrifies him. That's the only distinct panel, and then it introduces a very important refrain for every single page after, which is one small panel, followed by a slightly expanded panel view of the same scene, finished with a long panel at the top, fully setting the scene for this page. And likewise, at the bottom of each page, that order reversed, long, medium, small, leaving the page. Michael,
chef's kiss.
That was a chef's kiss, folks.
And
it was a chef's kiss.
And then the repeating way people or items are falling across the middle panels. Very good. Benjamin, it probably speaks to the fact that I've spent too much time on the internet and my brain has been rotted by 25 years of memes. But my first thought on seeing this was the famous webcomic format, Loss. Are you familiar with it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I know it's
the one that's become a parody.
It's become a parody. Well, it was immediately a parody of itself, but the sticking rigidly to the panel format. And it's not that rigid, obviously. There are variations used for dramatic effect. But that was my first thought. Yeah. Is this a reference to Loss? But again, it's not. It's actually just playing on the same concept of panel structure in itself being part of the storytelling process.
Yeah. Sometimes we get to see 2 pages side by side that play out the exact same thing. The one that you just referenced there is Jesus is a fainter.
Oh yeah.
And he doesn't enjoy any visible affectation of blood. And I say any visible affectation of blood because it doesn't have to be real blood, because when he's a boy in church, he sees Jesus on a cross, and if you're a Catholic and if you've gone through that particular experience, we bloody him up. He's got a few sprinkles on him. On the crucifix. He's not a clean boy.
These days he's probably a bit cleaner, but yeah, back in the olden days.
Bring him back. Bring back bloody Jesus. But here, look. Come here to me.
T-shirt of the week.
He faints at the mere inference of blood, if you like.
What's he doing?
And then because he has no other choice. And that's really, really interesting. As the story goes on, Jesus doesn't have papers because his parents came to America using the
crocodiles.
I suppose you'd call it they use the experts who bring small groups of Mexican people seeking a better life in the United States in the dead of night across very unsafe trails in the depth of night, right? This one more horrific than most, I think, by the time we get to it. But he has no option but to work in the slaughterhouse. So, given an option, Jesus never would have gone near a slaughterhouse, but his father got a job in a slaughterhouse, and that company, as we've already proven, does not give two shits about who works for them and who doesn't.
This one, the more you talk about it, Ben, the more obvious that this one is about. You could tell the story not set in a world with time anomalies. This could just flat out be an absolute panic attack because he has the crocodile experience when he's a little fella. Now, Benjamin, bear in mind, I'm not an industrial psychologist. He has the crocodile attack when he's a little fella. So does he see someone get killed by crocodiles, or is that just a dream? I think he does actually see.
Oh, no, I think he is part of a caravan of people. Caravan of people is probably strong. A small group of people trying to cross into America by river. And that river happens to have crocodiles in it, and his family survives.
Yeah. Now, maybe everyone survives, because if you're like a toddler and like there's even just a moment of panic around a crocodile, it sticks with you. Then he associates that with the Velociraptor statue and the combination of the Velociraptor statue as a child, the crocodile attack, the fear of blood, basically just comes flying out of a timey-wimey portal when he finally has a mental break from doing this dehumanizing job, basically.
Exactly.
Or maybe it was timey-wimey stuff.
Or maybe it was timey-wimey stuff. So it's impossible for us to tell.
No, it was. It was timey-wimey stuff.
Well, on the basis of the comic. Yeah. So I think, very important, right? His fear of blood stems from somewhere. And I think the fear of blood stems from having witnessed a man devoured by a crocodile. I think that's his fear of blood. During that event, he witnesses it. He shouldn't witness it. No child should have to witness that. And I think that begins his lifelong aversion to blood. Because the third scene in that opening salvo, Michael, is the church, the slaughterhouse, the birth of his child. Right? Those are the 3 panels. They're exactly the same. And then we switch color panels and we see maybe the more adult trauma of his life, or the more realistic trauma of his life. One being his crossing to America with his parents, and the second being his father becoming an alcoholic as a result of what he is forced to endure in the slaughterhouse. A dehumanization of his father that only finds relief in alcoholism and his parents coming to pick him up. Or his wife and his son coming to pick him up.
Daughter?
And then that's it.
A daughter? I thought he had a daughter.
He has a daughter, but no, his own father.
Oh, his own father.
His father is an alcoholic. because he swears never to be his father.
Yeah.
But the irony is,
He is, though.
that he is forced to do all the same thing as his father.
And guess what?
And so he is. It's in the blood. That's the refrain of the comic.
Is it?
Michael?
I don't think if it is in the
Yeah.
blood. I think it's in the circumstances. I think it's like any of us in these circumstances would end up like this. I don't think it's a genetic thing. It's not a you are your father. It's your father is who he is because of the traumas that he went through, and now you're experiencing similar traumas. That's the way I read it anyway. Not so much as it's genetic. Not like all Mexicans are alcoholics.
I think you're absolutely correct. And I think your weight of trauma narrative, this is a man just having a mental breakdown.
I meant a big
from
wobber,
the fact that,
technical term.
one of the most brilliant panel transitions is his daughter hanging from the monkey bars in the playground, and there's a small rocking thing that you see in loads of playgrounds that kids can sit on and rock backwards and forwards on, and it transforms into a crocodile, and he gets this flashback to what he witnessed as a child.
Yeah, he's fucked up.
Which is, he's fucked up. And I think that the testament of this, Michael, more horrific things happens. He loses his father to a meat grinder. He becomes a star employee at killing cows.
Yeah.
And the foreman, who also is a mental basket case in this particular case, he says, "Oh, I've had 2 nervous breakdowns, but you just keep going."
Yeah.
And it's like, oh,
We don't know if it's only 2. Great. And it's a great one. It's very good. This
it's so
for
good.
me. This was like, I'm back in.
Yeah, and it's horrific. We won't spoil anymore. If you haven't read it, go and read it. It's a hard read for me personally, just because it's a very emotionally moving. If you take the timey-wimey stuff away from it, it's a heartbreaking story.
Yeah.
It's a heartbreaking story with the timey-wimey stuff, but it's particularly devastating, I think, as a comic, just because it's what people do go through.
Yeah.
And that brings us into issue 3, Michael, which is Crisis on Hearth 2.
Yeah.
So
Hearth 2.
the established
Hearth 2.
Yeah.
Not Earth 2.
So the establishing quote for this, Michael, as we covered, Deniz Camp said, this is like the old superhero comics. And its title is a play on Crisis on Infinite Earths, because in DC's continuity, we had Earth 1 and Earth 2.
Very good.
And those were 2 significant Earths. Earth 1 is the main continuity of DC Comics, and Earth 2 was the golden age. And at one point, it was how DC tried to explain the transition from Silver Age comics into Bronze Age comics, and maybe a little bit more effectively Golden Age comics to Silver Age comics. Earth 2 was filled with the ideal of their heroes.
Alan
so
Scott,
Batman was the... Yeah, exactly. And then Superman was his most blue Boy Scout form and stuff like that.
Tin hat on with little Mercury wings.
Yeah, exactly. He had his classic Mercury helmet. But this plays with it in a different way, Michael. This plays with it as...
Hearth 2.
There's 2 parallel Earths. Yeah, Hearth 1. So Hearth is the name of the town.
Yeah.
Hearth. And it's filled with Hearthlings.
Very good.
And it happens to have...
the thinly veiled play on Earthlings, then.
Yeah, exactly. And as you said, Michael, very, very earlier on, this is an immigrant experience again. This is looking at immigration in the modern world. Again, just a testament to Deniz Camp's storytelling and to Eric Zawadzki's ability to create 2 identical sets of people, but distinguish them perfectly due to the circumstances they've been forced to endure.
That's it. They are but us, but for
Unbelievable.
circumstances. Benjamin,
Yeah.
this is a comic book that grabs you by the shoulders and shakes you viciously and said, they're just like us, but for circumstances, and then slaps you.
But for circumstance. And the only difference between Hearth 1 and Hearth 2 is that Hearth 2 is further along in its crisis.
Yeah, it's more fucked.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. It's more fucked. And it causes the displacement that is rampant in our world today. And the comic grapples with this notion of, as you said, circumstances. If it hadn't been for this one catastrophe or this one moment of misery that occurred to one person, you would be in the same boat.
Yeah.
You would be the same people.
So stop being such a dick.
It covers the spectrum of how people receive immigrants, how displacement occurs, how displacement can impact societies, how displacement can cause upheaval in political structure. It is a fascinating look. And again, all done at the microcosm of a single town.
Yeah.
So they're still very human stories.
Yeah. It's almost like the people of Shelbyville move into Springfield for some reason. That kept coming to me through this. It creates a very well realized town in such a short period of time. The influences that were coming to me were, for some reason, The Simpsons kept coming back to me on this. And I suppose it's the American Every Town vibe of it.
Yeah.
The cast of characters, it's not a farce like The Simpsons, but it has that Hearth could be Springfield. And that might just be that I'm Irish and I'm from the 90s. And for me, the idealized every town America is Springfield. But also, there's Walking Dead vibes in this. There's the Leftovers vibes in this. There's people moving on in relationships, but with the added wrinkle of like, it's you, it's another one of you, and it's exactly the same you. They cover so many little possibilities of what might happen in this from multiple perspectives. It's okay. When I say heavy-handed, it's not a criticism that I'm saying heavy-handed, but as an immigrant tale, it's incredibly obvious.
Yes.
It grabs you by the shoulder, shakes you and says, it's actually about immigrants. Stop being dick.
It's very clear.
Like, it's not subtle in that sense, but it's not trying to be, I feel. And the aspects of the storytelling there's a great bit where the woman her husband died, and in this world, she's still alive, but her husband died, and she finds a new guy who appreciates her, and he's jealous, and she's actually upset that she's seeing him still alive, but he takes it as, awful stuff.
It's Tina, Pete, and Harry.
Yeah.
Tina, Pete, and Harry.
Tina, Pete, and Harry. My favorite character, Tina, Pete, and Harry. What about the two men?
Yeah, so Tina is a survivor of the previous one, and in Hearth 1, she's married to Pete, and they're very, very happy.
Yeah.
Unfortunately for Hearth 2, Tina, she lost Pete to a lava pit, from what we understand, and watched him boil alive.
Classic.
Right? Now, every time that Hearth 1 Pete looks over to this newly arrived Tina 2, if you like, who's living with
Harry,
another version of a man in his town, his neighbor, Harry, right? And Pete goes, she's left me for Harry in that universe, but my teen is exactly the same. And it's amazing, right? Because he sees it as, and when you read it out loud, he says that he sees Harry caressing her in ways that cause her pleasure that Tina has never had for him. And then it flips the perspective. She's weeping into Harry's shoulder because every time she sees Pete, she sees the man that she wants boiled alive. Awful. Shocking stuff.
There's some great little meta moments in this as well, Benjamin. When Harry Fox, I believe is his name. No, there's not two Harrys, are there?
No, there's Fox. He's Andy Fox or Fuchs or
no, it's Fox because
he's
this guy Fox.
Yeah, it is
great.
He's the town curmudgeon. What's he called?
Town curmudgeon Harry Fox. Anyway, he says, Hearth 2, what's next? Hearth 52, Hearth 616. Fabulous little
boom
for the comics boys.
Great stuff. Of course, it all descends into chaos in its own way, Michael, and it becomes far more related to our reality, despite the fantastical element of doppelgangers arriving in your town. They eventually kick out the new immigrants and they put them in a camp that they call Hearth 2. And I missed that on my first read, and they kept talking about Hearth 2 again, and I got really confused. But no, they just renamed the displacement camp Hearth 2.
Yeah.
And we get to see, again, this love of contrasting panels. I think this is possibly the strongest place that panels are used to show the contrast between two worlds, because they are identical panel layouts in sets of two. Each one illustrates it from either a different perspective or a different aspect that we didn't see before. So page 1, in whatever layout Zawadzki chooses, establishes the conflict, and then page 2 of that set, the exact same panel layout, shows either the impact or the reality or the subtlety that was missed in one person's perception.
Delicious.
So many chef's kisses in this.
Delicious.
One of my favorite moments it shows that in certain cases, yes, there is a risk to the people that have come to the town. So the one that I'm quite interested in is the doppelganger who murders his Hearth One counterpoint to steal his family.
Yeah, because some immigrants are baddies.
Because there's always outliers, right? But also, interestingly, the fact that they use that as their bonfire moment, you know, the kindling to light their thing of like, and there's a vote, and they push it off, and it happens all the time. But my favorite part, Michael, is that Fuchs wins the election.
Yeah.
And the only person more surprised there is Fuchs himself, who goes,
shit. I'm not good.
He goes, wow. And there's a phenomenal panel of him in the crowd just going, oh, great. Because he was just an opportunist.
Yeah.
He was just a shite bag stirring up shit.
Absolutely.
And now he has to be the fucking mayor.
Yeah.
And again, a testament, Michael, to Eric Zawadzki in that there are so many people in this town and they're all distinct.
Yeah.
And I could tell from a single shot of Willie Fuchs is his name, by the way.
Willie Fuchs. Of course it is.
Big Willie Fuchs. I could tell instantly from a single panel of someone saying, wow. I was like, oh, that's Fuchs from earlier on in the comic. The colouring changed, the tone changed. He's a little bit more haggard, but I could always tell which character was which. Fucking Eric Zawadzki. Good on you.
Yeah, great.
Great stuff. Anyway,
one of the most Neil Gaiman-esque issues. I could see Neil Gaiman writing this. Maybe not as
boo.
Well, nice.
Boo. Not as well. Definitely
probably not as well. But you know, there's vibes. There's a little bit of Gaiman-esque influence in this. I'm thinking Prez in the Sandman comics. There's a little bit of that running through it as well. It might just be the kind of Anytown Americana that we don't have any direct real reference for. Anyway, great. Issue 4 though, also fucking great.
Yeah. Oh, Michael. Issue 4 was a slap. What a slap of an issue.
Humdinger.
So this is Time Flies is the name of this one. It's about a man, Mike in this particular case.
Or
Mikey, I think. And it's just snapshots of his life and poor decision making.
Yeah.
It's phenomenal.
Watch this man's life go down the shitter.
So it goes from, I suppose, the very global issues that people face, immigration, catastrophe, displacement, and then suddenly it just switches to a perfectly ordinary American man who had every advantage in life, doesn't struggle necessarily in terms of adverse circumstance. He's not like Jesus, who doesn't have papers and can't get a job. He's not like the Hearth Two individuals who have had everything taken from him. This is a man who has everything given to him and just fucks it up through a series of poor choices.
Yeah. Well, now let's be honest. We don't know that he has everything given to him. We only see his poor decisions. It's easy to assume that everything that all of the good stuff he has is handed to him on a plate. Like, for example, we see him as an older man starting to get his life back on track by going to yoga and meeting a nice age-appropriate lady and starting a relationship. Gina. And, you know, in that case, it gets ripped away from him by the cancer diagnosis.
Yes.
So he's not, it's easy to see him as a sad sack and a bad egg. And he clearly is, because, like, he makes these decisions. Well, we don't know, I suppose. That's the thing. We don't know what caused him to make these atrocious decisions.
I think it might be, and again, I can't assume Deniz Camp's intention here is, yes, he makes awful choices.
Yes.
That are reprehensible. But he does not necessarily deserve to suffer to the same degree that he suffers just because of those choices. I think they're very human choices. And that's a risky thing to say here.
Yeah, it is. Because he cheats on his wife with his ex-roommate. At the wedding.
The beginning of it's a very risky thing to say here, right? But if we step out
it's your wife is listening.
Yeah, exactly. So to frame this, right? He goes on a date with a woman. Yeah. He gets her pregnant on date number 3 because he didn't have the stones to say to this woman, I don't actually like you all that much. Yeah. This isn't great. And as happens in life, he gets her pregnant and he has to marry her then. And
is it?
Huh?
Is it?
It's what do you mean, is it?
I don't know if it necessarily reads that he gets her, like, he doesn't like her. Like, the date's not great. The first date's not great, and yet they end up married with children. Like,
And
I
then he
don't.
cheats on her almost immediately with his former roommate Susie.
Yeah, no, he's a bad fucking bloke.
Yeah.
We just always see him in the aftermath of the bad decision. We don't see him make the bad decision.
Yeah, exactly.
The character that we follow, kind of, because of the chronology of the way this timey-wimey works, we see the victim of bad decisions, not the kind of shadow side of him that's making the bad decisions.
Yeah,
we
that's
see
true.
the guy who's trying to save the situation. The character we see is very sympathetic because he has had these bad things happen to him, because we only see him when the bad things. Now, maybe you haven't seen it like that. You're like, he cheated on his wife. Fuck him.
I was going to say he's a very unreliable narrator, and there's one panel that makes me think this.
He's not though. He's not an unreliable narrator, because
he is an unreliable narrator, and I'll tell you why he's an unreliable narrator.
Right,
I'll tell you why he's an unreliable narrator.
Go on then.
He says in one of the pages he's on the first date with this woman and he's smoking, and the waiter comes over and tells him to put out the cigarette. And in a single panel, he stubs the cigarette and he says, "You can tell immediately that it's not going to work." That's the text in that panel, right? But then it cuts to him having a great fucking time with this woman, and he has clear chemistry with her. And so this is a man justifying, I think, retroactively some of his awful decision making.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so.
Okay, interesting.
I think that I think
bingo.
I think that the sad sack victim of the consequences can see it's not going to work. But the person that we don't see, the freewheeling adrenaline junkie, poor decision maker,
sex addict to some degree, I think.
Sex addict, like, he must have had a great time with her.
Yeah. And I think that's actually a better way to read it. I actually
No, don't be so convinced so quickly, because I preferred it when you had a different take, to be honest, because I think this is very open to takes, which is my favorite thing about this, is that it's very straightforward. It tells a very simple, very easy to follow story. The art is incredible, but the more you think about it, the more you're like, what's this telling us? Is it that the nice guy is the victim of, like, again, not to put a diagnosis on it, is he the victim of some sort of bipolar, schizophrenic thing where he doesn't really know what he's doing? Is this a metaphor for atrocious impulse control and moments of regret? It's like
very hard to pin down.
You might as well, Ben, have said there, real. Your entire body language just went real. It's so good. This is so good. And the art style of this, the blue and red art style of this.
Yeah.
It's like, my parents grew up in Ireland in the 50s, 60s, 70s. Like, they weren't reading comic books. They were running away from nuns with no shoes on. But the very few comic books that my parents brought into our family house from their childhoods looked like this. Like, really cheaply printed,
limited
single
color
or
palette.
two color, like, incredible. This was so, nostalgia is the wrong word, but it was so evocative for me of a time period of the very, very introduction to cheap, disposable comics that somehow survive. I love this issue.
Yeah, it's really good. I think, the bit that struck me is he is to some degree a sex addict, because we see the scene where he starts to go through the phone book trying to call somebody to spend time with, and he says that he sad and horny, you call Susie, Mary, Pilar, and Juan. And then we see him in bed with Juan, and he falls in love with Juan, or latches on to the ideal of Juan, I think is the more important thing. And then Juan calls his wife, and that kicks off the catastrophe there. And he finally decides to be with Juan, but it's too late. He's an old man, and Juan has moved on with Doug, and Doug and him have a kid. It's a whole thing. But that, in turn, Michael, kind of, it sparks so many questions for the narrative, because there's a roommate who completes suicide at the beginning of this. It's the roommate whose name you can't remember, and it turns out to be Zach, right?
Yeah, maybe though.
And I read that as a whole new idea when we find out that he sleeps with Juan, and he says, I think he says something like, "This is the first. He's never done this before, but of course you have, right?
Yeah.
I've never done." And that for me opened up whole new layers of reading the roommate whose name he couldn't remember, or the roommate whose name he refuses to remember, who might have been more than just a roommate, and he spurned Mike in the same way that Juan moved on. Do you know what I mean? And that's what led. So I loved it. I thought this, phenomenal issue. You're absolutely spot on. Spot on.
Yeah, we
Great
better wrap this up. We're over our usual time, but it's such
Okay.
a good comic and there's so much
It's
to talk
such a
about.
good comic, Michael.
Yeah.
This is the last one. We're on to chapter
Last one.
5, Strange Loops. This is the most world building one that we've read so far, I think. And it is we have slowly been microdosed with the agency of the jetpack time traveler. So there's a single mascot character, if you like. And I say mascot character because he is visually present in every issue, but he is not always able to impact the story. The first time that we see him directly impact the narrative is on Hearth 1 and Hearth 2.
We do?
He leads them to the doorway that will bring them to Hearth 1.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
He lays it up so that they can escape. And that's the first time we see agency occur for him, and a bit more of than a mascot character. Then we are introduced to, I think, what is one of the most existentially terrifying stories of the lot. It's Anna's story. And Anna is a girl who experiences a break in time that for this reality lasts for 60 seconds, but for her lasts an eternity almost. And it's a loop of abuse. And one of my favorite things is that mascot character is hiding on the outside of the first page of this issue, Michael. And he hides at the top of the panel.
Benjamin.
He's right there, and he's witnessing.
Benjamin, you're gonna love where this goes. Oh my god! I'm gonna get a text from Benjamin in about an hour saying it's a revelation. It's amazing. This is fabulous.
So it also introduces this oval and segment panel that becomes the cornerstone of the issue, which is fascinating because it's all about loops, obviously, and it's a loop by any other name. And so that's what's happening. Anna is someone who has experienced a truly traumatic event, and the tragedy of this one is that no one believes her.
Or they do, but they still expect her to just get on with it because the world is the way it is now. So it's like, okay, you were stuck in a 60-second time loop. It's over now. Get on with it. But for her perspective, it was 30 million years of being.
She's old and ancient, as she said. Like she's been through it all.
So Ben, we did an episode on our previous podcast, Sherlock, and time loop episodes, time loop shows, time loops. One of my favorite tropes in fiction. Love it. And this plays homage just deliciously.
Deniz Camp may as well have listened to our episode, Michael. The little Easter eggs in this are the direct running order of our thing. I'm going to ask him. I'm going to reach out to that man on Instagram and say, come here to me. Did you listen to an obscure Irish podcast on pop culture about 2 years ago?
Oh, way more than that. It was way more than that. But it's incredible.
Anyway.
The weatherman in Philadelphia who was stuck for a day.
Yeah. So it's Groundhog Day in that case. That's Natasha Lyonne's character in Russian Doll.
Russian Doll.
Then Andy Samberg
in Palm Springs. Incredible.
And Christina Milioni from Palm Springs. Yeah. So, but in this world, they're real. They're actual people. They're not. They're not. It's not a meta reference to movies. These are people who experience. And then, of course, we see her full conspiracy board, Michael, which has everybody in it. It has the mascot. It has Dirty Barry, which is the weird movies that poor Ashley is forced to endure. We have the symbol, which exists in the universe, which I didn't know until then. And then she visits different people. And she visits Juan's family, and they won't speak to him. She visits the woman whose husband existed in issue 1 as the little shred of a man picking his nose. She visits his wife. She visits some characters whose stories we've never seen.
It's great. This is the start of there's a bigger world at play. Now, I know we got introduced to it in 1, and I'm still expecting maybe in issue 100 Ashley will come back and be a key player. We got introduced to it in issue 1, but this is the episode where Ben, do you remember the TV show Dollhouse?
Yes.
The Dollhouse was just rubbish for like the first 10 episodes. And then it introduced the conspiracy behind what was going on. And it started to click together and make sense. And now this is very different because the 3 standalone stories of 2, 3, and 4 are incroyable. But this one is that episode. This is the... Every now and then we're going to pop back and have a look at the mythology. Now, the girl story itself is still good.
Devastating.
Yeah.
In its own way.
But it's a very simple premise of... We don't often see like 60-second time loops. That's very short. And being stuck in a 60-second traumatic time loop for 30 million years. Forever, essentially. It was reminiscent of that Stephen King story where the little boy goes on the airplane to Mars or whatever. Yeah, a little bit reminiscent of that. But, like incredible resilience that she comes out of it and is a functioning person.
Done through sheer perseverance on her part, because her 60-second time loop, Michael, never ends for the course of this story. And I mean that on 2 levels. I mean, in the first instance, she spent quite a long time in that 60-second loop, but the aftermath of the event makes her relive that loop all the time anyway. She's always brought back to that loop. So she's stuck in a strange loop no matter what she does. Strange loops! That's why it's called that. We did it. Yeah. And look, it's an incredible issue. It builds out the world. Again, a testament to art choices and everything to do with them. Like circles, motifs, just amazing.
This is a comic that benefits from being read physically. Because you can actually just turn it around. It's a struggle digitally to read this because when you turn your device upside down, it autocorrects.
Yeah, and you have to be really, really careful. But that's exactly what I experienced. Because when you do it with this one, you try to read it. No, correct.
I want it to be upside down. So this, again, we talk about this all the time on Collecting Issues, the monthly podcast, comic book podcast about comic books. Is that what this is? Yeah. We talk about it all the time. I love things that play with the medium of comics. Deniz Camp did it in Martian Manhunter, where you actually looked
Martian
through
Vision.
Yeah, that's Martian Vision. You physically look through the page, and this does it. And in this case, you're reading this time loop, and you're physically having to turn the comic around and go back the other way and turn it upside.
Great stuff.
Great stuff.
So I suppose that brings us to the end, folks. And what we'll ask you is, what did you enjoy about this comic? I just think it's a phenomenal comic. I think it's so dark, Michael. Not in an edgy 90s way, right? Where it's like, drugs and this on the street. I mean that there are panel layouts set around a noose, for example, when Anna tries to hang herself to end it all. A segment of the story is taken place where part of the vision that brings on the collapse that Anna experiences as a child is being able to see herself hang from a ceiling fan. And they tell a story from both perspectives, both her looking at herself as a child and the child looking at herself as an adult.
Fantastic.
Just so dark. The meat is murder angle of the thing. It's so dark. Crocodiles eating people is so
funny,
sinister. Like,
yes, that's what I meant.
Yeah, it's just stunning. One of the great tragedies, Michael, at the end of issue 1 is Mr. Suleiman. Mr. Suleiman dies because an alien beam cuts through him. But there's a really dark part to his story where they're shooting a movie on the street and his children have cowered in their bedrooms all day because they escaped conflict in whatever country they managed to get themselves out of. Like, such a dark comic, but it's done so well. It is a masterful comic. Probably one of my favorites of the year, Michael, to have read.
One of my favorites of the last few years, to be honest. I think this is one that's going to stick with me, and I'm very eager to read. My concerns revolve around how many ways are they going to be able to tell stories of people being fucked over by time before it starts getting... And capitalism and racism. But, like, how many of these individual grim stories can we get before I'm going to just want, tell us what's going on. Resolve it. Start resolving.
Deniz Camp is good at a closed loop, though.
Yeah, I think I have high hopes, Benjamin. I have high hopes.
High hopes.
Indeed. And a little bit because I accidentally read too many. I can tell you that some of those high hopes will be met, so that's not too bad.
Oh, yes. Deniz Camp, if you'd
really-
like to come on to your brand new Irish fan club podcast where we only cover the works of Deniz Camp, please get in touch with us and let us know. That's it from us. Next time, it is June. We're on to June. We are in the June one. This is obviously being published in June, Michael, ironically. But
I
I
didn't realize we were. Sorry.
we were doing a little flex here to finish out the podcast, Michael.
That's fine, yeah.
We are in June. And Michael, this month from DC Comics out comes Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. Millie Alcock is playing Superwoman on the silver screen. So in a shameless attempt, Michael, to garner some coattail riding, we are covering Tom King and Bilquis Evely's comic Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. And it's a great little thing. You can get it in the DC compact versions, Michael, for as little as $8.99 in some places.
Cool.
So go out there and get that comic. Give it a whirl, you fucks.
Stop shilling, Ben. My friend Tom King, you mean, or the comic book?
No,
writer?
not your friend Tom King. No.
The comic book writer.
Glad you got that in there. That's it from us for this week, folks. If you'd like to follow along with the podcast, if you'd like to recommend something to be read on the podcast, this is your comic book club. All of our links are down below in the description. You can find them. Go and follow us. We're on YouTube, where you can actually physically see us and how hench we are as we read comics.
Doing our flexes.
You can go on to Spotify, where you can hear us there. You can go on to Acast, where you can hear us there. We're on Apple Podcasts as well. You can also find us in all your favorite places, in microdoses, in the likes of Instagram, where we put up loads of different reels from things that we do. And we post things like 3 Reasons to Read, Assorted Crisis Events by Deniz Camp and Eric Zawadzki. So you can go and check out all that kind of stuff for all your comic goodness. That's it from us. Bye-bye.